Hey, this is Mike. I'm continuing my work with Ellis's Print Tuning Guide, and right now I'm going to take a look at getting that perfect first layer. So let's go ahead and get started. This video is sponsored by PCBWay. I want to thank PCBWay for sponsoring the Minimal 3DP channel on this video in particular. Now, if you take a look at the Print Tuning Guide, there is a step I'm skipping, and that's build surface preparation. And Elias is recommending you scuff up your board if you're using a smooth PEI sheet. I've never had to do that. So in my case, I'm just not going to do it because the idea of taking a perfectly smooth bed and scuffing it up really sort of makes me nervous. Now, with that being said, one of the key things we should do before we start with our first layer is set the Z offset, which I have off camera. And then we also need to clean the bed. Now, for cleaning the bed, what I do is I've off Amazon purchased 99% alcohol. So I've purchased that, and I'll put a link in the video description. In fact, I need to get more. And I just give the bed a squirt. And then I use my microfiber rags to give it a quick wipe down. Now, I have pets, so I'll be honest, what that typically means is there's pet hair on everything. So I definitely want to do that. Now, I also want to point out that if you touch the bed, you get your oils from your fingers on there, and that'll mess with adhesion as well. Now, if you don't have microfiber rags, you can simply use coffee filters. Coffee filters are pretty much lint-free, and they're a great alternative if you don't have any microfiber rags. And I always keep a container of coffee filters up here with me, as you can see. And I just buy the cheap, I guess, Walmart Great Value brand. That's good enough. And those, again, are lint-free, so I can use those to wipe down the surface as well. So let's go ahead and get that perfect first layer squish. So for our first step, we need to go to the test prints folder and download our patches. Now, based on the recommendation from the site, we need to ideally pick a first layer height that's bigger than 0.25. A bigger initial layer height basically gives a better base to the printer. Now, I usually use 0.32. In the case of Ellis's work, he has the following first layer heights. I'm going to change my first layer height to 0.3. Let me download this, and I'm going to open it in my slicer. Now I'm just going to go over here in the slicer, and I'm going to set this to 3. And I'll save this. Now that actually looks pretty good, and I need to multiply this out because we need several of these on the bed. So up here, we can right click on the model, hit clone, and I'm going to do 4 clones. Let me arrange those. And the way I'm going to do it is move these around by hand. Now you can set this up where it does it automatically, but in my case, I'll just do it by hand. And so I have these in the 4 corners and then just about the middle of the bed. Now, let's go over and just check all my other settings. Everything here looks good. There should be no infill. And we're going to hit slice plate. And with that sliced, we're then going to send it over to my Voron. Now we'll just send it to the Voron. And I'm going to switch over to the printer. And let me also open up the printer interface so we can look at that, because we might have to baby step things around. And I want to scroll down. So I'm looking at the Z offset section here. And just want to make note that this is going to move the extruder up or down. And ideally, I'm using this to look at the print and make adjustments as appropriate. I would like to thank PCBWay for sponsoring this video. I think right now is a great time to take a look at PCBWay. They have a big sale going on for Christmas, December 12th through the 31st. And as we get new maker gear for the holidays, it's a perfect time to take a look at their products. And if you want to build a prototype or build your own custom boards, now's a great time to take a look. They have the tools to help you. They also have lots of coupons. So if you have a chance, please take a look at PCBWay. As I pointed out, I can look at the Z-stepping via the web interface, but then I can also, in the case of this printer, do it on the screen. So let me switch over and we'll look at the screen rather than the web interface and just do it from there. Either way, we can do it from both places. Before I print or send it to the printer, I want to make one other change here. I'm going to go to the first layer here and change this to 120%. And I want to make sure I put the percent sign there, mainly because if I don't, it'll read it as millimeters, which again isn't correct. I'll just save that because I don't mind that initial layer being 120%. And then we'll go up here and hit slice plate and then print and upload and print. And that should send it over to the Voron, where we'll start the bed heating and the quad leveling, and then eventually it'll start printing. So let's switch over and take a look once it starts printing. Now, while I'm waiting for that to heat up, I have a couple choices here. I can make adjustments to the Z axis as it's printing because I'm going to make live adjustments. I can make it via the screen here. I can go to fine tune, and then here's where I can change the Z height. And I want to do that based on what the little patches are looking like as they're printing. Now, besides that methodology, I can also go up here, and if I scroll down, here's the tuning right here. So I can tune the Z offset this way. This is a little bit more fine grained. I like doing it this way over the screen. The only issue is the printer is across the room, and it's a little easier just to be staring at the printer and sitting right there with it as it's working. So with that being said, I'm going to do it via the screen. Okay, so the printer is now starting to print. And what I'm doing is looking at each square as it's going. And I need to make sure that it looks good. Now, it's hard to see from there. Let me stand up. But what I can see is on this first patch, I'm going to get rid of this piece of filament. It looks like, and I can't see it that well right now. I maybe could go down a little bit. I paused for a minute there so I could pull the swatch off. And if you look, this actually looks pretty good. I think I'm going to go down a little bit. So on the fine tuning, I'll take it down just a tiny little bit. And that's looking good. Now, the way this has been described to me and what you should look at is when anything's being printed, you want to make sure that almost feels like there's fishing line laying down on the bed. If you run your finger across a model and that line's coming up, you definitely need to lower the Z offset. And right now, this is looking good. I really like the look of this. Feels nice and smooth. Now I can tell I probably need to make some other adjustments here. Looks like I'm getting a little bit of blobbing on the corners, but one of my future steps will actually work for that. Now, by using this model, as I mentioned, we're checking the four corners and then checking the center of the bed and making sure it's sticking everywhere. And we just want to, again, use the settings on the screen to basically baby step the model. Now, I think I'm actually going to go back up a little bit. particularly in the middle. The patch is a little bit rougher. That may be because the nozzle's too close to the bed. With that being said, I'm still very, very pleased with this. Now, it's done all the corners. Let me pull the middle one up so we can take a quick look at it. And if you look carefully on this middle one, it's a little bit rougher feeling. Now, pull the one where I moved it back up. That feels perfectly smooth. So I think we're really good with this. Now, one thing I do want to do is just check all the corners. So I've checked everything, and I feel really good with this. So I think we have this working exactly the way we want. I didn't wind up changing the Z offset. And I'll be honest, I've gotten pretty good with telling where the printer needs to be when I'm setting the initial Z offset. Because I'll be honest, I've screwed it up so many times. I've had a lot of practice. But for right now, these patches look really good. So I think I have a great first layer. Now, the only thing I'm going to do since I printed is, in my case, I'm big on, once I print, put a little alcohol on here, and then I clean the bed. And by doing that, I feel like I'm keeping the bed in good shape. It's nice and clean. And my build surface, whenever I do my next model, will adhere perfectly. So with that being said, I'm going to move on to the next tuning. If you have any questions or comments about this first layer, please post it below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye. This is Mike again. If you're having trouble with your 3D printer, I'm putting a link in the video description of how you can schedule a 15-minute consult with me. I'm more than happy to sit down with you, see if we can figure out what the problem is, see if we can get your printer rolling. Also, if you would like to support the channel, I've enabled memberships. And so for a small monthly contribution, you can help support my work. Now, ideally, what I'm going to do is use any money, and same for the advertising I get for the channel. I'm going to use that to buy more 3D printers and more equipment and more technology that I could use here on the channel. If you have any questions or comments, please post below, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.